They're the liberal rednecks. They like cornbread and butt sex. They care way too much but don't give a fuck. They're the liberal rednecks that makes some people upset, but they got 3 big old dicks that you can suck. What's up, y'all? No matter how you're approaching 2024, Lectric e-bikes can help you go the distance from commutes to adventures. Riders of all abilities can explore this new year with Lectric e-bikes. Explore 2024 with Lectric e-bikes, the most accessible and adventurous e-bikes ever. Visit lectricebikes.com to learn more, and be sure to mention that the WellRED podcast sent you in the post-checkout survey. That's Lectric ebikes.com. And tell them the WellRED podcast sent you. What's up, fellers? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right. Is it still cold there? It's been cold all around everywhere else, but, you know.
So it's, I think it's 35 today, but it absolutely feels like the summer because it's been like 12.
So it's been cold out here, too. People out here have been really struggling
55.
lately. About 54, 53 some days. It's been rough. Winds blowing.
It did get down to 36 one night, and I had to go somewhere early that next day. It
Really?
was 30. So I made a video, and you can do in the Instagram, like you can just put the weather. It was 37. Can you believe that shit, Trae?
You and Mark, I kind of, because when I first moved out here, y'all took a trip out here, and we took a whole bunch of pictures. We spent like all day taking pictures with a photographer. We started early that morning in my backyard, and it was like 34 that morning, and I had just gotten here, and so it was like January, February, is this time of year, and I was like, I didn't think y'all did this. This is horse shit. But the photographer, she was an Angelino, and she was saying, she was like, this almost never happens. Fuck this. This sucks. So,
but also the valley's different, right?
I don't know. You and Mark on our group chat the other night were talking about how but it is cold out here. People don't understand. See, California cold is different. It's a dry cold, and it's,
It feels colder.
Yeah, right. But I think that's funny to literally anyone from anywhere else to hear that argument, because
depends on where they live. If they live in a desert, dude, deserts get cold.
Yeah.
Also, you leave the house and it's 50, so you throw on a hoodie. Then the wind starts blowing and it's dry and it cuts through your hoodie, and you're like, fuck this. Whereas back home, you better go out and walk the dog. It's 34. You throw on a bigger coat. I was in Tennessee. It was in the 30s and 20s some days. And it felt colder here walking Mick when it was in the 50s.
Y'all got that wind. That ocean wind.
We do got that wind.
Wind be winning.
Wind do be winning. Wind don't hit.
But I maintain that a dry cold still better than a wet cold.
Well, it's a moist cold is what you'd be comparing it to. If it's raining, obviously you're fucked.
Speaking of wind, I think I told y'all this, but I think I said on here, when I had a show in Chicago in like November, December, and and at one point I was walking around Wicker Park.
Wow.
And well, I was going to get something to eat, but also I've never been in the Wicker Park part, which is like kind of a...
Is that the Bean?
Bougie? No, it's like hell, I don't know. I'll get it wrong if I just know it's like a historic, nice neighborhood in Chicago where all the houses are expensive and shit. But anyway, I was walking around at one point and unironically had the thought in my head, because I was like doing this, like hugging myself and stuff, and I was like, God damn, I didn't realize Chicago was such a windy city, right? Like I thought that. And then I like laughed at myself because I was like, oh, right, they literally call it that. But I was like getting so mad at the wind in Chicago because I was like, why don't people bring this up? And then I was like, they do all the time. They bring it up.
We did it. We used to do it in the summer, and then we did it once in January or February, and I just remember being furious.
Yeah, it was cold. Amber came.
It was miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, it don't hit. Before, and I was just in Charlottesville, Virginia, where it was like 14, but I came to there from Miami, and I think Miami and LA are like the only two parts of this country that haven't been frigid cold over the past week. But I was in Miami, as you know, Drew, because I was doing stand-up at a lawyer conference, and so I thought we'd talk about lawyers for a bit, because, Joe, I wanted to ask you, me and Drew helped me get ready for the show, and we talked about a lot of stuff, including two main things. Number one, it's like lawyers have their own genre of jokes, right? Just like blonde jokes, Polish jokes, whatever, all that. All the different jokes. Lawyers have theirs, and theirs are always like the punchline is that they're, sleazy,
Pieces
evil
of shit.
assholes. Right, exactly. Like, blondes are dumb. It's funny, most of them are just dumb. Blondes are dumb. Rednecks are dumb. Rednecks also fucked their cousins.
Polacks are dumb.
Rednecks are also racist. Rednecks are a bunch of ones, but yeah. Polacks are dumb. Blondes are dumb.
Blondes are whores.
Yeah, rednecks are the Polacks of America for sure.
Blondes are whores. That's
Yeah, whores too.
Yeah, right.
Blondes are huge sluts.
Well, so lawyers are supposed to be, just awful, right? Which I feel like makes people, like, from a very young age, distrust lawyers. And Corey, I just wonder what your theory is on how that happened, because B, I don't think that's a good thing. But like,
It's not.
People, you should trust your lawyer. Like it's like it almost feels like some kind of psyop or something.
Those jokes should have
People
always
like
been like about corporate lawyers instead of just lawyers in general,
Yeah.
I think it's because of commercials.
Like Sleazy, Slippin' Jimmy ambulance chaser commercials.
Yeah, I think most commercials you see, it's that, and then the thing I told you when we were talking about it, and I think I've said this on here before, it's also like you meet your lawyer, you're having a bad situation. Most of the time, he or she cannot make it simply go away.
Right.
So it's like you associate them. I went through this divorce. That bitch cheated on me. She took my kids. She took my house. And at the end of it, this motherfucker want to tell me I owe him $10,000. He didn't do a
That
goddamn
was
thing.
my theory.
Right,
Was
well,
that the people who write jokes have been to divorce court more than most
that's
people.
Actually, yeah, that's what we came up with too. That's what I wrote down. I don't remember if I think I did say, because we, you figure a lot of those jokes probably started to originate, but for a long time people didn't mostly get divorced. Then people started getting divorced more regularly around mid-century or whatever, and then all of a sudden all these
Jokes popped up.
lawyer jokes pop up. But
It's not like in the Depression they were like, what's a lawyer?
right, yeah. But the other thing about lawyers, Cho, that I realized, because I used to think it would kind of hit to be a lawyer for a while there, and I think maybe subconsciously part of it was because
You would hear the phrase "wrap it up" a lot said to you.
well, but there are actually
Get to the point.
are they
Counselor.
Can they be? Are lawyers verbose or succinct? Stereotypically,
They're supposed to be succinct.
Yeah.
I mean, stereotypically, a lot of them are blowhards. There's a lot of ego involved in trial work.
Right. So yeah, I can figure that out. But anyway, I think subconsciously, Cho, it's because it's like the only smart job outside of writer, maybe, if you consider writer to be a smart job, where you're allowed to be from the South. Me and you talked about this last week. I just remembered.
We
My
did.
bad. On POA we did. I forgot about that. But anyway.
We did, but we didn't go that much in depth with it, and we certainly didn't have a Southern lawyer to give us his opinion on it, so I think it's fair play.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it with the smart job thing. Professor, maybe, but it's got to be literature.
Civil War.
Or, yeah,
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably it. And even then, it's got to be Deep South.
Thank you. It's exactly
it's
what
gotta
I
be
said.
that. It's got to be that. Now I tell you, I do declare.
Right.
When the evil Mr. Sherman came down,
Yeah. That dog won't hunt, Yana.
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah. It
Thinking
can't
about naming
be.
my
So
story that.
when'd you put on the ski mask, Reggie?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Cho, you think you could have been a lawyer?
So in this scenario, my brain functions, correct?
What does that mean? Like differently
Well, I'm
than
not-
it actually does?
no,
you're
Yeah.
you in the
You.
scenario. So no, your brain don't hit. So
Okay. I think that if I had a really good paralegal who could help me like with the research part, that'd be the only part that I would struggle with, is like the discovery and all. But if we're talking about just like arguing in court, fuck yeah. But my problem would be is that I would stay in contempt. You know what I mean?
That's the opposite would be the case.
tell us why.
You think so?
Because of his personality. The judge is the most important person there. You're going to see him every day.
He's gonna want to
You would
pinch your
hit for
cheeks.
you would want to hit for the judge, and you would hit for the judge.
Yeah, that's fair.
probably
That-
talking about
you know what?
golf
Drew's taught
with
me
him and
into it.
shit.
I'd hit as a lawyer.
But like, what about how you think he'd fare in law school though?
Oh, terribly.
Okay,
you gotta get through that
now-
part first.
I did
Actually,
horribly.
you don't, right?
What?
Technically, you don't have
Depends
to.
on the state.
Okay.
It used to be.
If you could just
didn't
pass
have to
the
go at
bar,
all.
you could just be a lawyer.
That used to be the case everywhere. Now, many states have it where you do have to have a degree to even register for the bar.
Okay.
But there's a few where you don't.
I think me now, like, let's say hypothetically, Amber was all of a sudden out of the picture or whatever, and I had somebody was like, "Hey, yo, you're 30, comedy's not working out. Go, you can go to law school." Like me, when I was student age, I was the worst fucking student ever. But the older I've gotten, and I don't know whether it's just like, man, learning sure is fun. I wish I'd have done that. Like, I am a little bit more of a studious person now. So, like, I think if you drop 36-year-old Corey in law school, I'd do good. But, yeah, dude, 20-year-old Corey,
the first year is extremely dry and extremely disorienting for most people in terms of what they're trying to do to your brain. And I don't think you do well with that. And that's not a comment on your intelligence at all. I did horribly with it.
Right.
The second and third year where you get to pick more of your classes and it's a lot more practical, I agree with you. And you may do good in the first year. I just don't think, like, what would be your driving force here? Like, gun to your head every day? Sure. Are you capable of it? But, like, at some point, it's like, did you do the reading? No, because all we do is we go to this fucking room and you ask us questions and that kid has a meltdown, but because I have some moxie, I'll argue with you and everyone thinks I'm brilliant. That's what happened to me. Everyone thought I was brilliant and lost. They legitimately were afraid of me because I had the worst fucking grades because I wasn't afraid of the professors.
Yeah, I used to argue with mine too.
I would say shit like, yeah, I don't know. And it would blow their fucking mind that you could just be like, yeah, I'm an idiot.
I always found that hit for professors.
The professors love it. I'm talking about the other kids.
Because I know I'm saying the other students would be like looking at it like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But then the professor would be like, smiling,
good for you.
Like, this guy hits for me. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. I think that all three of us are very like, if something is our passion, we can do it, and there's nothing that would stop us from doing it. But then there's some people who like, they can put in the work whether the thing hits for them or not. And you're correct. I'm not that person. Like, if something really hits for me, I'm not going to let any obstacle get in the way of me achieving that. But like, my dick's got to be hard, and it probably wouldn't be hard.
Dude, all these like third tier law schools, I mean, they're like $50,000 a year. They're basically a scam, but they're so fucking.
Hold on, wait, $50,000. What is that? That's like, you're saying that's crazy low for a law school?
No, that's exactly what my law school costs.
Okay, so you're saying even the shitty ones cost just as much?
The top 10, except for unless they're like public, like Michigan, are about 100 probably a year, maybe 75, and then after that, everything's like 55, including the worst ones.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, you could probably go to those, Cho, just like figure out the schedule and just show up. It's not like there's gonna be like cards that you got to beep into the door at these places because trust me, they're spending as little money as possible in order to turn a profit. It would be interesting.
Just to audit law school.
Audit law school. We'll buy your books with
illegally
with WellREDs. Yeah, illegally. That's an interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I know how to get the books. Don't worry about that. I'll figure that out.
Yeah, he was a book man for a while.
And then
I was a book man.
I think Montana. And there's a couple other states. You wouldn't have to have the degree. You could just go take the bar exam.
I think that would be interesting to do as like a case study of like, you know, you're like, I'm more mature now, but I feel like the older you get, it's harder to learn shit because your brain has already formed and it's like, I got all this shit in here and you're not as much of a sponge, you know, but I am more mature, so I don't fucking know.
So one thing I want to ask you about in a second, I'll come back to, is just the mercenary status of lawyers and stuff for some of these lawyers anyway. But like, Joe, thing I hit for you, going to a lawyer conference. This is a big trial lawyer conference, by the way. So this is just like criminal defense and civil plaintiff people, basically. And a lot of like partners in big law firms are there. Like they gave an award to the dude who took Ford to the, fucking cleaners for $1.8 billion or something because of the way the roof's crumpled.
Oh shit!
Nice.
Right, like that type of thing. Right, that guy got an award for doing that, like that. But anyway, and these dudes getting these like in these $1 billion settlements and shit, and partners these big law firms show the trophy wife situation is unreal. No,
I guarantee
it's insane. Like it's just like
plastic or young.
Not crazy young, like respect. You know what I mean? She's probably 50, but she looks 38 or 40, and yes, she's kind of plasticed up and is wearing a very borderline, like, is it
inappropriate?
Yes, it's like is it professional or slutty or it's somehow both.
Is she working?
Outfit, right? Yeah, like that type of thing. And then most of the ones I met seemed like Southern debutante or whatever. And
Nice.
it's like,
Fancy,
did you
dude.
have a fucking
She had
show
one
on
chance.
Food Network or something? Like that's what they seem like. Which none of that's surprising. I bet their cars are pretty rad too. But I didn't see any of those.
Yeah, a lot of them go for luxury because it's like considered gauche to go for a sports car.
Right.
But I love a lawyer who doesn't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
We had this one that taught us trial practice. Dude, literally, we'd walk in, he would just tell us a story about a time he hit real hard.
Right.
And then we'd go to the bar. That was the whole trial practice class. And the one thing I remember he taught us was when you're pointing, don't ever point with your finger. You point with your whole hand. Judges and juries don't like it if you point at them.
Right. That makes sense.
You guys want beers?
Yeah.
That was the whole thing.
Right.
And he'd say, if they ask you a question you don't like, you just look at him. You go, did I ask you what you ate for breakfast? He told us that almost every day. I still have no idea what you're supposed to do with it. But he was super fucking rich. He walked on to the Patriots when he was like 22, and he was still Jim Marciano, I think is his name. Like he was fucking jacked, and he was rich. Dude, he would spend $1,000 a week taking us to the bar.
I mean,
That's
pretty
awesome.
fucking rad.
And he had a sweet Corvette. He didn't give a fuck about looking gauche.
The mercenary thing, another guy that got honored at this conference I was at, who got an award from him, has represented in recent years. He was both Jared Kushner and also Hunter Biden's attorney.
Yeah. It's a niche. It's a niche world.
And I'm
Bipartisan.
right. I'm just saying, but it's like, and neither side like at that level. If you need a lawyer in a situation, either one of them are in. Yeah, exactly. There's no like tribalism or something when it comes to that type of shit. It's just like, well, this is the dude,
Yeah.
But also, lawyers, people inherently understand that about them. I feel like
it depends.
As divided as shit is right now, I don't think anybody is going to be surprised or upset to hear that guy did that. Do you know what I mean? Like nobody.
Right.
Nobody's gonna be like, how could you? Like maybe
idiots.
It goes back to like the stereotypes about lawyers or whatever. They're like, well, of course he doesn't have.
I was
any
just to say, I
loyalty.
think people are generally upset by it, and then that's
so
that's
they're not
enough.
surprised. Yeah, right. They have low expectations.
They're like, well, yeah, he did the shitty thing lawyers do.
Yeah.
It's like I don't expect serial killers not to kill.
Right.
It'd be like somebody being like, that serial killer only killed black men. He's a racist.
Yeah.
Be like, well, all right, well, that's a fair point, but he's also a fucking serial killer.
Right.
Dude, speaking of that type of shit, I just recently watched The Lincoln Lawyer for the first time. Like I'd never seen it.
The movie or the show?
It's great. No, the movie.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, it does it.
I really enjoyed it. I thought Ryan Felipe was awesome. That twist was nice. But regardless, like McConaughey at one point in the movie, it's like towards the middle, I think, he runs into this dude who he don't hit for because McConaughey had gotten this dude who like very clearly murdered someone off. And the dude was on his ass like, how do you sleep at night? Blah, 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 blah. This guy murdered blah, blah, blah. And McConaughey's like, yes, I agree with you that he did. He's like, however, they planted evidence. They, took this away from blah, blah, blah. The way that they handled it was a miscarriage of justice. And I am for the justice system. So like get him on murder, but don't do some illegal shit having to do it. And I was like, man, as shitty as that is, like that, I'm glad that there's dudes like that who are like, look, man, if we're going to do this, we got to do it the right fucking way.
Well, if they get away with it in the case where the guy's guilty, then they're going to get away with it in the case where the guy's not guilty. Justice is a process, not an outcome.
Yeah.
And that's like the hardest thing to wrap your brain around, I think, when you're entering into that world or trying to like think about it honestly. Justice is not what happened at the end of the trial. It is everything that led up to it and then the process.
Right.
Of the
I
trial.
feel like that's a revelation a lot of people have about lawyers, depending on where they're at philosophically and politically and a bunch of other shit. But I didn't learn that from Matthew McConaughey and the Lincoln Lawyer show. I actually learned that from Drew when we first met, basically, because we talked about
No.
this
Me too, for the record. It reminded me of Drew, which is why it hit for me, and I wanted to say it.
He never remembered anything I said.
Yes, I have.
I'm just kidding.
Years and years ago, we hadn't known each other like a couple months. He was the first lawyer I ever knew, right? I mean, you're kind of still the only lawyer I really know now that I think about it, other than your buddies who I've met through you.
Handsome Jake was in town, and I wanted to talk about that, but go ahead.
Anyway, and I asked him, we're like drinking at a bar one night maybe after a show or something, I don't remember. And I asked him so stupidly, I'm like 25 or something. And I was like, so you're a public defender. Like, have you have you ever had to represent somebody who you were pretty sure was like, guilty, right? And he just started like dying laughing, and I was like, whoa, what the hell? He's like, I hope they're guilty. He's like, if they're guilty, I'm playing with house money. Then the pressure's off. I just got to get a plea deal. He's like, if they're innocent, they need a better lawyer because fuck that shit. Like, but also, as a public defender, so many of them are guilty, right? But like that... or like they're getting fucked. They did something, but they're getting like that type of
That's
nuances.
Probably the most
stuff,
common
that
thing.
type of nuances, the trumped up charges and shit. That type of nuances and stuff you don't think about. Just like growing up and hearing about how lawyers are assholes or watching the practice or whatever, people represent somebody that's guilty. You don't think about that type of nuance and how the justice system is fucked. And like Corey said, at a certain point you realize like, nah, I mean, I'm glad that dudes like that exist. Also, like you said about the night, it's better to let people. I'd rather let people go that did do something than lock people over or put people to death or something who didn't
100%.
do anything. People who are innocent. And so, like...
That's pretty much
that's why you
accepted in our system, too. I don't think prosecutors actually practice that way a lot of times, but because they convince themselves people are guilty, you know what I mean? My point being, like, philosophically, our justice system operates that way, or it's supposed to.
Yeah.
That we should let 100 men go who are guilty than ever put somebody away who's not guilty. Now, it clearly doesn't operate that way. Like,
right.
Very obviously, people who claim that don't actually feel that way.
Yeah. Who do you think's like the sleaziest type of law? Like, if you had
type?
There's a bunch of different types of lawyers. The ones that you're like, no,
the billboard
those guys are pieces of shit.
Well,
or
there's
whatever.
a few different types of billboard guys. I would say that...
Yeah, there's some billboard guys in Knoxville that hit for you, right?
Well, hip for me's
right. Yeah.
They're fun to hang out with.
I did a British accent in a commercial for their law firm once years ago.
Right. Wade hits for me, but
they have a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
And they like to party.
Yeah.
They got a good boat.
Yeah.
The sleaziest is probably this, like, stereotypically some of the slip and fall people. I mean, obviously, if you really do slip at fucking KFC because there wasn't a fucking sign, and you're at KFC, you probably don't have a lot of money. You probably don't have the best health care in the world.
I eat at KFC and I hit.
You want to get your medical bills paid. So those are a big one. And then there are some really shitty people in the insurance, car wreck, and workers' comp game where it's such a regimented system that it's pretty easy to do, but you can make a commercial sort of pretending like it's difficult and then charge a bunch of fucking people because you're some sort of famous, charge a bunch of people in your area more than any other lawyer would because you got the name, and then get literally the same fucking thing over and over. You're screwing people out of a percentage of their money. That's sleazy because you're doing it to scale. Do you know what I mean? But like, you probably didn't ruin anyone's life, I hope, in that scenario.
Yeah. What about
and then prosecutors?
What about the people handling those massive class action things where it's like I got an email this week from Verizon. I guess I had no idea. I've been with Verizon for a long time. They're in the middle of a class action settlement.
Yeah.
And so because of that, if I fill out some form or whatever
you
else,
get like $5.
It's going to be like $50 or whatever. And I was like, I'm not even going to fuck with that. But it's
Hell
like,
no.
what? But I'm saying, I don't know it.
That's wild. So here's how that works.
Okay, because is there anybody that's getting a good? Is that more to just like punish Verizon
and get rich?
And the lawyer makes a shitload of money because they make a percentage off the lump sum, but each person.
So
like
if it's $100 million,
right?
Because it's probably $10 million because it's 1 million subscribers getting $10. Well, then they get probably a third of that,
right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good payday.
I mean, hell yeah.
They just got to find one client who's willing to, and then they'll tell that client, we'll give you more.
Right.
And then they just got to get all the information that Verizon did this to everybody. That was probably a throttling case. There's a few of those going on where at night you have unlimited data, so they purposely slowed you down because everyone was streaming, and it was costing them a lot of money and energy. Their power bills were going up.
Right. And
you have unlimited data, so they can't take your data, but they made it so annoying is what they were doing.
Right.
Like, fuck this, my shit's not working. They were doing it on purpose. That's probably what, I know there's a case like that out there.
Yeah, that shit's pretty wild. So is that tort law or torts?
Yeah,
Tort stuff for
let
the
me
big
think.
class action settlements.
That's
I got that from a
probably-
John Grisham book.
That's
read
probably
15 years ago.
Makes me hungry.
That's probably contract. It could be a type of tort. That's probably contract. There's 7 different types of tort, as I recall. It's like libel, slander, causing bodily injury, negligence. Fuck, I don't remember them all. But that's probably because you have a contract with Verizon.
Yeah.
So it's just a breach of contract, most likely.
Okay. I just looked it up. Drew was right. It is a throttling case. Speaking of throttling, are y'all ready to throttle into 2024? I know I am. And whether you're tiptoeing in or hitting the throttle hard, it doesn't matter. No matter how you're approaching 2024, Lectric E-Bikes can help you go the distance. From commutes to adventures, riders of all abilities can explore this new year with Lectric E-Bikes. So go to lectricebikes.com to learn more about their wide selection of e-bikes that start at just $7.99 with the XP Lite. That's Lectric ebikes.com. Drew, they sent you one. You lucky SOB. Tell us about it.
Buddy. All right, guys. Obviously, I'm doing a commercial here, and I got to do this endorsement, but Corey and Trae were kind enough to let me have this fucking thing. It is so rad.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it's legal.
I knew it would hit.
It's so rad.
Yeah.
From the bottom of my heart, this is the raddest thing we've ever endorsed. I probably shouldn't say that. This is so rad. It's comfortable. It's everything you want in a bicycle. And then on top of that, you got the little throttle, the button. You just lounge. You're just like, I'm going to go for a little exercise, a little bike ride. Maybe I'll go to my gym. And then you get tired halfway there, and you're no longer on a bike. You are, but now it's an e-bike.
Right.
It's unbelievable how much fun it is.
Hit.
And also, my wife won't let me have a motorcycle. I figured a workaround.
Right.
This isn't one.
No,
it's an
not.
e-bike.
It's an e-bike.
And it's rad.
Right.
I love it. Yeah.
Well,
I did have some concerns before. I thought, like, this is going to be like a slog. You know, like, this is a big, heavy bicycle. And then when I get tired, I'll go to use it, and the battery won't last, or it won't even work right, or it'll be slower than I expect. None of that. All my concerns were misplaced. It's great as a bike. It feels like riding a good bike when you're not even using the electric park.
Another thing that hits about that, you mentioned motorcycles. Well, like motorcycles, you got to have special license and insurance and all this stuff. But the e-bikes, same safety regulations and road access as a regular bicycle. In most states, license, registration, inspection, none of that's required. But
And you
should check the laws in your area.
And laws don't hit for me.
Right.
And so the fact that I don't have to deal with them in this particular case and state really hits for me.
Yeah, up to 150 miles on one charge, y'all. It's pretty sweet. So explore 2024 with Lectric E-Bikes, the most accessible and adventurous e-bikes ever. Visit lectricebikes.com to learn more, and be sure to mention that the WellRED podcast sent you in the post-checkout survey. That's Lectric ebikes.com. Tell them the WellRED podcast sent you.
And I want to add, I got so excited talking about riding it. I want to add, it came assembled.
Nice.
To get it out, I just had to cut some zip ties and unfold it, and then do like 2 of those hand screws, put the handlebars in, twist them back. I'm ready to go. Came assembled. It looked rad. The stickers were already on it. Mm-hmm. These people are doing it correctly.
That hits.
There was no like IKEA situation where I wanted to like die and I had parts spread out over my yard.
Yeah.
It showed up, and then 10 minutes later I had a bike. Boom, plug it in the charger. 4 or 5 hours later I got an e-bike.
Hits.
Well, everybody, please get one, because I want them to have incentive to send me one, because I've been picturing how hard this would hit for Trae. Imagine me on this thing, but I've got like a Marvin the Martian style helmet.
Already got one.
You know what I mean?
You need.
Just
I've always wanted you to have.
I got a
one of those.
retro helmet.
I'd rather you be in a sidecar wearing a Marvin the Martian helmet. Personally, that's how I envision it. But yeah, that would also hit.
I got one of those retro buckets, and I got it in what they call oil slick blue, because the trim on the electric bike is close to that color, so it matches. I'm gonna send you guys pictures. I'm gonna get you a sidecar, but it's just gonna be a wheelbarrow.
So I had another Matthew McConaughey related thing.
Okay,
sort of.
I got a lawyer thing. Are we shifting? I just wanted to say 2 things.
Yeah.
My buddy Jake was in town. He's doing commercial litigation. He probably got
He should
invited
just
to
straight
that.
up do commercials, because he's pretty.
Yes, he is. Handsome Jake. He described what he does as when the rich sue the rich to get richer. He's just their lawyer.
That's a good niche to be in, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like he's killing it.
Yeah.
And I think if I quit comedy, I could wrap my head around doing what he's doing, because it's like he only dicks over people who are already rich because he's so niche. Like, he's just not in. I'm sure his firm does it, but he's not in the field of like, well, Ford's got to make sure that they don't give $1 billion to families who died in wrecks because the roof was crumpling or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's more like Denso sent us a faulty part. Denso makes parts for cars. I know that because they're based in Tennessee.
Right.
So we're going to sue them.
I thought you were doing like an Italian stereotype racist thing.
Yeah. Fucking
Hey,
Denso Ferrari over here.
On my memories today was a picture of you in your Mario fit.
Oh, hell. That's fun.
So the other thing, I told you this story, but I want to tell the story for the podcast. This is my favorite client ever, Corey. And this really gets at the heart of the philosophy of what we were talking about with trumped up charges. Somebody doing something and then being charged extra. So I had this kid when I was a juvenile public defender. He went by the name Oompa Loompa. He was a dwarf. He was 15 years old, and he was in a trailer park gang that was more of a club who'd seen too many rap videos than a gang.
Oh, yeah.
And not that they weren't committing crime, but they weren't violent or anything, as far as I know.
Yeah, I had my dalliances with those.
Yeah. So what they were doing was they were going to the nice parts of town close to them, and they were breaking into houses during the day when no one was home and stealing all their jewelry and cash and whatever else they could find. But
wearing a bracelet as a necklace.
Yeah, so their MO, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
Was they would try to find a place with 2 stories, because often they discovered that while all the house was locked up on the first floor, they would just leave windows unlocked on the second floor, and they would. You ready for this
Stand
story?
on each other and wear a trench coat.
No, he was the only dwarf. They weren't all dwarfs. I love that you think they were all dwarfs.
Yeah.
No, it was one dwarf.
They would throw him.
They would throw him onto the roof.
Ankles and throw that motherfucker.
They would throw him onto the roof. Oompa Loompa would land on the roof.
That is a good, actually, he brings up an interesting point. Like, did they grab one on each side of him and heave, or did like one big guy grab his ankles and spin around
Helicopter.
like a hammer throw?
You know, we didn't get into that. He was just mostly telling me he could be thrown on the roofs and fit into all windows.
Yeah.
I'm upset I didn't think to ask.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have just made something up right then.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's like, the first one seems way more practical, but also, seems like you could.
They were a fun group. I mean, he had Oompa Loompa tattooed right there on his forearms. You know, he had to do both because it wouldn't fit.
You could also put your hands down like this, and he could run and like put his foot in it, and you just launch him up.
I bet
there
they did that. I mean, that's the most practical thing.
Yeah.
So they had charged him with
I can't make the jump. You have to toss me.
75 home burglaries.
Legolas through Gimli.
75?
Yeah. Anyway.
75. And I forgot about that. That's so funny. It's so funny that they're making this prestige literature movie,
and then they threw
a fucking
dwarf in it. Yeah. There was a whole running joke. He wanted to throw him a couple of times, and he's like, "Nobody throws a dwarf," and then he very resigned. I can't make the jump. You have to toss me.
So, so we're going over it. They've charged him with like 75 of these. Some of them were on the same day, miles apart. In urban Miami, you couldn't have done it. You can't break into this house at 2 and be at this one by 3. But he had confessed to all of them.
For like clout or
so
something?
I talked to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, man, they've got you on 75. You confessed to all of them. But I know you didn't do some of them.
Yeah, he's like, they call me the bite-sized bandit, baby. Put that in the
That's
papers.
right.
It's like, they're trying to build his rep up.
He said the detectives were really nice to me, and they told me that they were having a hard time with some of their cases. And they would buy me McDonald's if I would just cop to all of them.
McDonald's? Yeah. I figured not lollipops or candy factory stuff.
No.
Just okay.
He's a different kind of stereotype.
Cheeseburgers?
You're doing the little person stereotype,
But he's a trailer
white
park.
trash
right.
stereotype.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So
one or the other.
he copped to all of them. I was like, okay, cool, but the state wants to charge you as an adult. Because the prosecutor's perspective is, this little shithead is the biggest criminal in South Florida right now.
Right.
And my perspective coming back at him is like, okay, but he literally couldn't have done all this. What's actually happening is you have a fat fuck lazy detective. And he's like, well, he confessed to him. What do you want me to do? So I go to my client and I'm talking to him about this. And I'm like, look, dude, they're wanting to try you as an adult and they're allowed to. The state of Florida can try someone your age as an adult in certain circumstances, and 75 felonies in a 2-month period absolutely qualifies for that. And he said, I felt this so profound in retrospect. Mr. Drew, the state of Florida is not going to try a 16-year-old midget as an adult. You don't need to worry about that. We go to the first day of, I don't know what hearing we were having.
You just send him straight to Disney is what you do in Florida.
So we were having a hearing, and I'm talking to the prosecutor, and I'm laying out the case that I was just laying out, like, dude, check the dates, dog. Like, if you make me go to trial, and he's like, he's like, we'll go to trial then. But I'm going to try him as an adult. And then finally I go, look at him. And he's like, what? And I'm like, just look at my client. And he goes, I don't know what you're trying to do. You know, like I'm trying to get sympathy or like whatever. I'm like, Jack, just look at my client. And he turned and he saw that it was a little person. I mean, he's like 3'8".
Right.
And he goes, all right, time served, probation. We'll do 2 felonies.
Hey,
That hits.
while we're on this, Drew, I've always wanted to know, because in some cases, you know, when it's like a violent psychopath, you're like, okay, maybe I get it. But like when they decide to try someone as an adult, like how the fuck does that work to where they go, look,
They just
this 14-year-old is different than this 14-year-old.
he's much blacker. You can see you can see how much blacker he is than this one who committed a similar crime, and they're like, that makes sense to me, Your Honor. Checks out. They pull out that little skin color shading chart from Family Guy, you know?
Yeah.
Where it starts off white and gets progressively darker.
swatch.
And there's a SWAT, yeah, and there's a point
where you're an
point where
adult.
you are now tried as an adult, yeah, at whatever
Yeah.
your age, yeah. I believe that's the case.
That is accurate. What
I know that's okay.
No, that's literally it. What I was going to say is just like egregiously ambitious prosecutors who have a
Right.
hard on for whatever their sense of justice is, who either want to get their name in the paper or think this particular crime does. But like Trae is saying the same thing I am.
No, I know that. Okay, but we're okay, if you go with, because I know it's happened where white kids have been tried as adults too. Now they were probably poor white trash. So it's kind of the same.
I mean,
Each state has laws that decide when. Most states that I know of, it's still discretionary. It's no like you automatically get tried as an adult if these 3 things happen. It's if these 3 things happen, the state can try you as an adult if they want to. Those things are often like, was it a particularly violent situation?
Right.
Or was the victim someone who was part of a protected class, or whether they be young or mentally handicapped? Was it an egregious amount? Like, you know, Oompa went on a spree. So there's
Right.
nothing about burglary inherently that can make you be tried as an adult. But if you do that many of them, it was like, all right, this is one of the scenarios where we could. And the idea is, we don't punish children like we do adults because their brains work so differently.
Right.
They're inherently more innocent. The theory behind it is like, yeah, but if you're doing 75 of them, maybe
right.
you're not.
It's egregious, but like, and also, this isn't news either, but like, it also goes in the other direction, right? Like you're saying, well, if it's violent or fucked up, well, sometimes if that happens, but it's like a rich white kid, you know what I mean? Then
Let's not ruin his life.
Exactly. This guy's got his whole future ahead of him. He could go to college
and
and be
also-
Ivy League, all this shit. We can't ruin that just because of
Just
one
like
mistake.
the lady he raped.
Exactly.
Also, in
right.
Also,
Yes.
in both cases, maybe
Brock
not
Turner.
Maybe not with Turner.
we're talking about.
but with like the Menendez twins.
Known rapist, Brock Turner. Anyway, yeah. What?
He changed
Loved
his
it.
name. I wish I knew what it was
I
because
would
people
have
had
too.
figured him out. He's going by his middle. But anyway, the Menendez
Ike.
twins, is that their names? That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Was that their names? The boys who
Yeah,
killed?
Menendez.
The Menendez, yeah.
A lot of times with those violent kids things, rich and poor, they've had the most fucked up life you could have.
Right.
There's a
Right.
reason that they are fucked up. And that's the other reason we are, in theory, not supposed to punish kids like adults because we recognize that they're simply acting out. Now, is that also true of violent adults? Of course, but we are a violent, bloodthirsty nation that likes nothing more than to mash up poor black and brown people and suck the life out of them for profit.
So in other words, what you're saying, and I kind of am there with you, which is like, okay, if you want to look at Brock Turner as a kid who has his whole life ahead of him, that's fine, but you got to do that for every motherfucker across the board.
Well, with Brock Turner, first of all, he was an adult. He was always tried as an adult. I mean, the situation is that judge
he was in college.
liked Brock Turner, probably was a fan of Stanford or whatever because he was in that area, and just is one of those, dude, there's men of a certain age who just don't really believe in rape, man.
Right. Mm-hmm. They don't.
Just, unless you like beat her to death. And even then,
What'd she say?
Right.
Right. How drunk were you?
That judge himself deserved punishment.
You said we're a violent, bloodthirsty nation. The other thing I wanted to ask y'all about, figured you especially, Drew, for some reason. So me and Cho both watched the show Reacher. It's a dad show. You should get in on
Rules.
It's a big, just a hulking mountain of a man who just beats people to death for everything.
Greatest show of all time.
He's a good guy, right? And that's sort of
Is it propaganda? Is he a cop?
No, he's not a cop. He was in the military, and now he just wanders the earth beating people's asses who need it, right? So, anyway.
Right. I'm not against it so far.
I know, but I have a cop to bring up. So, I've been watching that show. I also just rewatched season 1 of True Detective, right? That's where Matthew McConaughey comes in. So, Reacher, the character, I know it's a fictional character. He just loves killing people, right? But they all deserve it. They
like Dexter.
They don't hit. They're bad. I mean, he just is real good at just murdering everything in sight. But it's all bad guys.
He almost can't not. He's tried not to, and then accidentally did.
There's so many times where it would be so much better for him to not kill the person because they have information that would be vital to his investigation. But he just can't not kill. He just smushes things with his.
He's a bull in a china shop. Yeah, he's just huge.
Yeah, right. So anyway, True Detective season 1, Matthew McConaughey. Russ Cole, him and Marty Hart are in the car driving, and Woody Harrelson says something, he's like, you're a bad guy, right? And McConaughey goes, well, the world needs bad men like me. We keep other bad men from the door, right? And I just got me to thinking, because while also watching Reacher, these are both made-up shows, but, do you think there's people out there, Navy SEALs or whatever, I feel like talking more military than, cops probably, but who, really, really hit at killing people and also who, dig the shit out of it, but who have, some kind of code. Are those people still sociopaths? But they're they're like the good guys.
You want to know if I think they're sociopaths?
Good guys with a gun type of thing. They fight on the side of light instead of darkness.
Because I rooted for Dexter.
But they still just murder the shit out of people, and they love doing it. And it's so what? How do you categorize a person like that? You know what I mean?
Can I tell you
something? It's wild to think about.
Every single cop and prosecutor in America believes that about themselves.
Right.
Right.
So, if you're asking me, do I think that person exists? Yes. But do I buy that as a trope? Those folks exist, but that trope was created literally by propaganda shows.
Right.
Right.
And military propaganda. Do I think that that there are people there are plenty of good violent people in the world who are doing their best.
I mean, fucking SEAL Team 6 or whatever, right? It's they're...
Who knows if they're good, but...
Right. Well, yeah, but...
But yes, there are plenty of good violent people in the world. Plenty.
Well,
but that's such a dangerous philosophy, or I don't know what the right word is, but that's a very dangerous... It's poisoned America. You are literally talking about those thin blue line stickers that everyone wears on the back of their car.
That's good guy with a gun.
It's why cops love the Punisher, even though the Punisher mostly killed cops.
Hates cops, yeah, right. Yeah.
Because they think they're him.
Right.
So, I can't answer your question without the caveat
you probably
of
True Detective, right?
Bullshit.
And Matthew McConaughey obviously hits for you. The character of Russ probably hit for you, right?
Yeah, he was fun.
Yeah, right, and watching the show. But I'm saying he, literally verbalizes this thing that you're talking about how dangerous in everything it is in real life.
Well, that's why shows like True Detective are dangerous. I've made some exceptions. That's one of them. fucking Game of Thrones is one of them. But I genuinely despise how Western culture can only seem to write positively about cops and rich people and, you know, the king. And I'm not saying like obviously Joffrey was evil.
Yeah.
But Joffrey also was like a badass character that everyone talked about. You know what I mean?
But you watched The Wire?
Yeah.
You ever seen The Wire? Did you ever go back and watch that?
I haven't yet.
I feel like
Right.
it's
Sort of
pretty
been
fucking
saving it.
even-handed. There's some like some of the cops
they make
are like
the cops look like shit.
yeah, and there's
I've
been
always
some
heard
dirty
that.
cop shows. The Shield was also a dirty cop show.
Yeah, it was.
and-
I loved The Shield.
yeah, so you know.
But even it made them look like badasses. Like, 'cause
Right.
the way they wrote it, you know, I remember my brother watched it, and he had like the opposite thing where he was like, finally, some cops I like.
Yeah, right.
These ones are criminals.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, there's there's this old man that has recently gone viral because he.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
he-
that old, but thank you for
No,
noticing.
no.
Got
I'm not
2.8
even
million.
hilarious. I'm not even talking
Hold on,
about
wait a
the one
minute.
I
You went
sent y'all.
your country music thing?
No, this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. My top 5 worst friends of the year.
Oh, okay. Well, still,
We weren't on
that's- Congrats. Well, good. You said worst friends, didn't you?
Yeah.
See.
It's not the guy that I sent y'all. That straight up lunatic that was talking about how many people he killed. Although I mean, you know, that was wild. But it's this other old man who he was in Vietnam, right? And he's recently gone viral because he started streaming, like he plays Call of Duty and stuff, and he's fucking amazing at being a sniper on there because, you know, he was a sniper. Anyways, he's like, he does these streams where he'll teach people how to like, look, this is how you got to aim and all this stuff. And there's this one video of the first time when he was doing it, and he was having so much goddamn fun. And just every time he'd blow a motherfucker's head off, he's laughing his ass off. And there's all these people in the comments that are like, you know, fuck this old man for, you know, doing this and like killing all these motherfuckers. And it's not, you know, it's not to be glorified. And I'm like, I hear you, but like, we got to understand that this dude was in Vietnam, which means he might not have wanted to go there, right? You know what I mean? And like, yeah, he got forced to go to war and he got really good at being a sniper. And like, I don't know, I'm glad he was good at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, you get drafted and sent to a war, and then you just find out you happen to really hit at killing people.
Yeah.
It's got to be a wild
I
thing.
doubt that's what happened.
But you think he
it's just
signed
wild
that guy
to me that
wanted to
people
go?
were.
Sounds like he's really into it.
I think
okay,
I maybe
but I'm
missed
just-
something. Did you say he's playing Call of Duty in these clips?
Yeah.
So he's like
Yeah.
70 something?
He's streaming. He's an old man that started streaming
But-
because
so
he
what-
found out.
When he snipes somebody in Call of Duty, does he be like, that's like I did Charlie back in Da Nang in '69? Is he
No,
doing shit
he
like that?
doesn't say those
well,
words,
Then
but,
what?
like-
I don't understand what people are mad
Dude,
about.
people are, first off, the people that are commenting on this, like, they don't like Call of Duty to begin with. You know what I mean? Because it glorifies war or whatever. But like, he's super pumped when he gets a kill. And like,
Yeah.
he's teaching everybody like how to lead and stuff like that. And like, you got to factor in the win. And everybody's shitting on him like,
Ow,
this
get the
dude's
fuck out of
No,
here.
I
dude's
get
enter-
it.
But I'm
No,
saying,
I
like,
get it.
those-
Fucking video game.
No, but I
That's
get-
how they work.
No, but I get-
killing spree and all this shit. It's like it ain't the same goddamn
They're
thing.
No,
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 but
they're
but
mad.
because
Drew's got
he's
it right.
done
They're
it in
mad
real
about-
life, it makes him uncomfortable to see him get hype about it. Is what I would imagine.
I bet I don't know.
that I can see how that makes one. Like, imagine if a dude who had raped
Well,
a
'cause
bunch
now
of
I'm thinking,
prostitutes
was in GTA,
played,
fucking-
and just like, fuck yeah, dude, cut her head off. You'd be
Okay.
like, ugh.
Okay, but there's
Yeah.
never a situation. There's never a situation where rape is justified. But this dude got sent to a war that he had to go.
I get all that.
to.
I'm not trying to disparage the man necessarily, although I'm on the fence. What I'm saying is I do understand why people are like, it is uncomfortable that a man who has killed people is now celebrating a video game who does it, because we prefer, in general in our culture, for someone to be like, war's nothing like a video game. It's hell. Taking a man's life's one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. It changes you. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder
And
if-
it's like probably good to prefer that.
Sure. I just wonder if there's other, because part of me is somebody, I used to play the shit out of first person shooters all the time.
And I
think-
bet if you
and I
had to
think-
kill people, you wouldn't want to anymore.
And I think everybody that does at some point thinks
They'd be good at it.
that, like, that it's transferable, that the skills are
Yeah.
transferred. Like, there's people that play Call of Duty and think I'd hit at war, and of course most people are like, no, you fucking wouldn't. But this dude is like, I don't know, maybe you would hit at war, you know? Like, and I just think it's a funny, like, that's kind of where my brain went. I was like, damn, maybe I would have kind of hit at war because of how much Halo I played. I never thought that was a real thing, but now this guy makes me think maybe it is.
And I think that's exactly why it bothers people, is because the stereotype is that it would be the reverse. You went to war, this shit is not going to hit for you. People who think it's the same disgust you. People who think that they could be good at it.
But a lot of those dudes love it, though, right? I mean... That's kind of what I was talking about.
But hold on,
new type of war,
I want to say
going to be
something.
Transferable.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's basically just video games.
I want to say something, though.
Shit. Yeah.
I don't believe him.
Which part? What do you
I
mean?
don't think this streaming old man was in Vietnam.
You think he's stolen valor?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Why?
because it's a brilliant idea. You're trying to
Way
go
to drum
viral.
up streams.
You're good at the video game. How are you going to get them? You know, this is like what I used to really do. Mm-hmm. And all the people want to hear it, just like you said.
Right.
All the people are like, man, I bet I'd hit at war. You would.
He hits
son.
for me even harder if that's the case.
I mean, yeah, because he's less evil. He's a different type of evil. Yeah. It is weird. You guys don't think it's weird.
But he's not evil for going to Vietnam. They made him.
You guys don't think it's weird that someone who has taken many lives now gets off on, is excited about a video game where he takes lives and then is like, fuck yeah, dude. You don't think that doesn't hit a part of you in a weird way?
Not really, no.
I think that's strange, man.
I did a bunch of reports.
I'm not saying he's evil, but it's strange.
Of reports and projects and shit when I was in college on the subject of violent video games and where they influence people to be violent, because that was a huge hot button topic for a long time. And then even in the Rittenhouse trial, those dumbass prosecutors brought it up like it hasn't not been a thing for 15 fucking years now. But anyway, I researched and talked about it a lot because I'm a fat dork who likes video games and stuff, and I just never bought into it. And there's like a fundamental difference between like a video game and reality, no matter what, like the context of it. Like GTA, I just don't think, like my mother-in-law, true story, one time my mother-in-law was at my house and I put in GTA 5 because it just recently come out, because she's pretty cool, I think. And I'm playing it for like 30 seconds and she goes, well, Trae, you just ran right through that red light. And I was like, I'm just going to turn this off, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying,
before I murder this horse.
She would be like really put off by watching me, you know, murder whores or whatever in GTA 5. But I'm not going to murder actual whores.
But
and so,
this guy did. And I'm not saying he is evil. I'm saying that it's unfathomable to me that you guys can't understand why it bothers people.
The top comment, by the
you're
way,
making
was
an
someone
argument
saying... top comment was someone saying, look at all these millennials tell a boomer that playing video games is bad, which is hilarious to me.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
I'm not saying him playing video games is bad. I'm not even saying he's evil. I'm saying that you guys seem like you don't understand where these people are coming from, and I can't fathom that, because where they're coming from is the guy who's murdered people is celebrating a video game. That's because you're making arguments as to why video games aren't evil. I agree with you.
Right.
This is not that. This is a conversation in my mind about whether or not it's ridiculous to be bothered by what this guy's doing. It's uncomfortable. That's not uncomfortable for you, that a guy who has sniped people in war, his favorite thing to do is to pretend that he's still in fucking Vietnam sniping people in war?
He went through hell and now he likes to play video games. Good for him.
I was going to say...
Maybe. What hell did he go through? It sounds like he was at a distance just picking off fucking Vietnamese people.
China. Cambodians too, maybe. If he did any CIA work. But
China supported him. There were Chinamen there.
But I'd have no way of knowing, of course. My sorry ass didn't go to war, and I'm not going to go to war.
Yeah.
But I think if I had actually signed up for the military in college when I was playing 6 hours of Halo a day, I think had I gone to war and gotten into some shit and somehow survived it, which I wouldn't, but if I did, and I'd been in some fucked up situations, war-wise, I don't think I would suddenly not like Halo anymore when I got back, and I'm still 23.
But also, Vietnam was so long ago. Like, a lot of time has passed.
We're not just talking about him.
We missed the video where this guy talked about how this was kind of hard for me to get into, but now it hits for me.
But you guys are missing, to me, the picture here, which is not that he likes video games, and it's that apparently his either income or favorite hobby is to celebrate all of that. And I'm saying, whether you agree with that or not, it's not surprising that America's like, ugh, because we prefer our
I'm
vets.
not surprised at
We
these
prefer our
motherfuckers.
vet-
They're just being gay wads.
No, I think they're being a human being. If you know for a fact that this guy's killed people and he's not humble about it, that makes you uncomfortable. I mean, look, I'm not saying it's fair, but America absolutely prefers our vets humbled. Well, they want them to come back contrite, and if they don't want to, that's fine. But it's not being a gay wad to like be uneasy about that. It's being very human. Like, holy shit, this dude killed a bunch of people, and it seemingly doesn't bother him at all.
But
Wild.
they don't say it like that. They don't say I'm a little uncomfortable. They go, fuck this old piece of shit. You know what I mean? Which I think is different.
Don't you think if you also got sent to, if you got sent, we don't know if he was drafted or volunteer, but if you got sent to war, if we'd been the generation could be sent to war, and you got over there and you ended up a sniper or whatever, infantry or whatever it was, or a blower upper of people, you name it.
My grandfather was a blower upper in World War II.
Don't you think that World War II, I always felt like, I mean, there was good and there was bad in that war, like legitimately. And so, like, I think those guys probably were mostly able to sleep at night because they were like, well, I was fighting literal evil, right? Like an actual evil empire. But if you got sent to fucking Nam against your will and then that happened and you ended up killing some people or what, don't you think you would like very much so want to convince yourself that that was okay, that you did that or whatever? Because otherwise you'll fucking drink yourself to death by 1982 or whatever, which
and a lot of them did.
And that's what I'm saying. I am not trying to necessarily cast aspersions on this man. I'm saying that it is natural to react with a little bit of disgust to a guy who just was out there. The Vietnamese army was just a bunch of farmers who learned how to shoot because we were fucking attacking them. Nothing about and everyone knows this, even if they're not conscious of it. It should make people uncomfortable that a dude who sniped Vietnamese farmers is out here celebrating it. I mean, it just should. I'm not saying he's evil,
but I don't think he was celebrating shooting the Vietnamese people. He's just like, I'm really good at sniping in this video game because Call of Duty ain't against Vietnam. I mean, I'm pretty sure he shot a German.
Right. I'm not saying this dude's evil. This whole thing was you calling them gay wads and you being like, oh, fuck those people. Those people are having a very natural response. Is
what I'm saying.
Which is a natural response to a dude who's murdered multiple people to be celebrating murdering people in a video game. I'm not saying he is evil. I'm saying that is a natural response to a murderer celebrating murder.
The most natural response is to keep fucking scrolling.
I don't know about calling.
That's fair.
I don't know about calling a guy that got drafted into war a murderer. I don't know about that fundamentally. A murderer?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I think the reason people probably feel that way is because if you're not, you'd probably feel bad about it. If you're not a murderer, and hold on, then why the fuck is he acting like dickbag _69 telling other people how to do it? That's my point. I'm saying that
it's a goddamn video game
played by a guy who lived it. I'm saying that if you're not a murderer, but you get drafted and you kill multiple people because you're a really talented sniper and you're not a murderer, how are you going to feel about what you did?
It's been 50 years, hell.
Yeah, not good.
Then you're going to tell people you did it and say that's why I'm so good at this video game. The only reason Corey knows he used to do that is he said it. And again, I don't believe he did.
Right. Well, we do need to go, but I'm glad this ended the way it did. It hit for me. I just,
plug your shit.
I was coming from a gamer perspective mostly throughout. I feel like there were sort of three different kind of arguments happening there. Anyway, I won mine. This comes out Wednesday. As is often the case. Then tonight I'll be in Orlando, and tomorrow I'm in Tampa. Come see me. And then I'll be in D.C. and Virginia and Indy and St. Louis coming up. So TraeCrowder.com and make a hit.
I will be in Denver in March. I'm going to be in San Diego. Just check my website. Check out Gravy Baby, the podcast with me and DJ Lewis and Carmen Morales. That's it.
Hey, listen to Putting on Airs with me and Trae. Also, Weekly Skews with him and Smart Mark Agee. And go to bonuscorey.com. You can also subscribe to me on Instagram for videos and shit like that. Thank you all for listening to the WellRED Show. We'd love to stick around longer, but we got to go. Fuck.
Tune in next week if you got
Next
nothing
week,
to
if you
do.
got nothing to do. Thank you. God bless you. Good night and skew. Sorry, I stopped vaping and I started dipping, and I like inhaled some tobacco
He's been
juice
dipping
as
for
I was
4
doing
days
that.
and said gay wad twice on the podcast.
All right. Love you and bye. Fart. Hit
Bye.
the fart.
Hit the fart.
Hit
Oh,
the
my
fart.
bad.
He'll hit the fart. Just ask him.
Shoo.
This episode is brought to you by the new book Round Here and Over Yonder, written by authors Trae Crowder and Corey Ryan Forrester. That's ya boy. The book is out now. I would like to thank everyone who did the pre-order, but for those of you who were like, you know what, I want to wait and actually go to a bookstore and pick this thing up, well, you can do that right now. Round Here and Over Yonder, a front porch travel guide written by two progressive hillbillies. Parenthetical, yes, that's a thing. We love long titles, but we love making you laugh even more. This book is chock full of jokes. We chock filled it too. It's got a bunch of jokes in it. It's really, really, really fun. We tried to take the stereotypes of certain regions, talk about what they are, talk about what they got right, talk about what the actual reality is. Of course, we did it with our own little region here in the South. We went everywhere else in the United States, and for the first time in our lives, we went to the UK. It's Rednecks Abroad. The book is Round Here and Over Yonder. Not to brag on us, but I will. It is hilarious. Pick it up now wherever you get books. And by the way, we narrated the audio version if that's how you want to digest it. But there is no wrong way. Round Here and Over Yonder, wherever you get your books. Do it at an indie bookstore. I like that more. Don't tell Amazon, though. Bye.